Welcome to episode 234 of In Touch with iOS, the show that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies. I'm your host, Dave Ginsburg, and my guest this week, he's back on the show, Holden DePardo. How are you doing, Holden?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. It's been a little bit, but I'm glad you made it to the show. We're going to have a lot of fun chatting about. There's always lots of news the last couple of weeks, but which makes it even better when Jeff Gammett's here because we can always talk about all the fun things that are happening this past week. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing well. And yeah, I'm happy to make up anything just so it sounds good and keeps the show rolling, whatever it takes.
Yeah, whatever it takes. So Apple did release 16.2, so we'll have plenty to talk about this week about that. And then right after that, beta 16.3 is out, and lots of news, and got a couple topics we'll hit for this week. But as always, let's go ahead and start with the news for this week. First story I wanted to start off with is the Sonos. I personally have the Sonos Move, which is a awesome speaker that if anybody recalls, it was a work anniversary gift, so I did get that as a nice gift. But Sonos today did update the TruePlay feature that's now available in the Sonos app, which will allow TruePlay to work on iPhone 14 model iPhones. What TruePlay does is it uses the iPhone to take a scan of the room where a Sonos product is located, measure how sound reflects off the walls, furnishings, and surfaces in the area. And it is pretty nifty, I must say. And I hadn't even realized that it hadn't even been available for a lot of the Sonos products, but it is now. So it will cover both not only the Move, but it also the Move and many of the other Sonos products, except it won't cover the Port, the Connect, and the Roam, which is not surprising. Those are the smaller speakers. Jeff, you being the audiophile you are, what do you think of this?
You just got a free upgrade to your Sonos. How can that not be a good thing?
It can't. Yeah, not at all. And I think anybody that's out there who has Sonos, whether it be Sonos speakers for their home theater, for anything, their speakers are pretty awesome.
Yep. And wow, Apple needs to step up their game.
They do.
Or just go ahead and put the HomePods on the shelf next to the iPod Hi-Fi and call it good.
Yeah, the good old Hi-Fi. Yeah.
And I say this as someone that has a HomePod and two HomePod minis in my place.
I do as well. So yeah. I hear the comparison. What do you think?
I have a HomePod Mini and I like it a lot, but I don't think it has the TruePlay equivalent that the Pod had. I don't think the HomePod Mini has that built into it. So I've never heard that distinction before of what it sounds like to have that kind of, I guess, a room awareness on it. Have you gotten a chance to try it out? Does it sound?
Oh yeah, it's amazing. There's only some songs. There'll be certain songs. I'm lifting it up here because it does. The mic is here, so you get to. I'm showing it on camera here. The mic turns on and off, so it'll listen to in the room. And when you have the app open on your iPhone, it's going to get the sound. This also doubles as an assistant too. So it's going to be the A lady or the G lady as well if you so choose. So, but this thing, it's pretty heavy, but it's nice enough. It's got the nice handle. It's portable.
That's the Move.
This is the Move. Yes,
it's pretty big I was thinking something small. I hadn't seen the Move before.
Oh no. Yeah, so it's a pretty nifty speaker. So, but no, I'm glad to see that, and then a lot of other speaker companies out there. Yeah, who knows? They may follow suit. Depends, but Sonos, I know, pretty hard to beat them sometimes.
If it's built into the phone, you can do it from the phone. I don't see why other companies wouldn't do it.
Yeah. So, next story. Always report this, but and kind of just say and move on. Really, is the Apple did release AirTag's firmware update this week. It is designed for the AirTags, and with the firmware feature now being a build number of 2A36, like we'll even know what that is. And Apple did start releasing it in November. Then note that when you do install the update, you'll see the version number in there when you look at your AirTag, but no word on what the update was. Maybe they'll provide a support document. Doubt it.
It's not live activities or something. No dynamic island features coming to AirTag.
Oh, well, then I'm out. I'm going to sell my AirTags.
Yeah. who knows? I mean, it could have been just something related to 16.2. Very possible, but
Or
yeah,
efficiencies or something. Who knows?
Apple is very, very hush hush about the AirTags. They really don't talk too much about the updates to it. Not much else to talk about when it comes to that, other than it's there. I found this to be interesting for those who use DaVinci Resolve on your Mac. There is a beta version of it being released out right now for the iPad. The popular video editing app, the DaVinci Resolve from Blackmagic Design, is going to soon be available on the iPad as a beta version. The app is being tested right now. Mac Rumors, the article here said they do have access to the beta. I would not be surprised if it's out there for any other beta testers. But this is definitely going to be interesting to see with multi-touch technology using the Apple Pencil in mind, and optimized for the performance of the iPads, the Silicon iPad models, which I would kind of anticipate it's probably only going to be compatible to the M1 and M2s. I don't know if they would really release this, but Jeff, what do you think of this? I don't know if you use DaVinci or not. I haven't been able to spend too much time with DaVinci on the Mac, but it's kind of exciting.
It's very exciting. I'm not a DaVinci user, but that doesn't matter. I can still appreciate how important this is. And I get that Apple likes to leave certain things as third-party opportunities. But holy crap, why is Apple not producing the pro-level apps for the iPad the way other companies are doing?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. So what do you think, Holden?
I think that you are right with like the filling in the gaps that the third parties won't. I have a theory that Apple's not doing the pro apps on the iPad, not because it doesn't have the processing power, but because it doesn't have the guaranteed precision of a mouse and keyboard that you might want in an app like Final Cut. That's my theory, at least. But it's like so heavily requested. I'm kind of surprised they haven't decided to release something, because even leaving open for third parties, there are a lot of video editing software out there, and people tend to choose not just the default first party option. Even on Macs, people still choose Adobe Premiere and stuff. So I feel like that would still be the case on iPad. So you can still leave it open to the third parties, technically.
Yeah, but I mean, I know that Jeff's a big LumaFusion user, so they're competition. But I mean, it's good to see that there's a lot of competing products in this arena, because just it keeps all of them on their toes to keep improving and adding. And the cool thing with DaVinci, there is a free version, and it's a full-fledged, very viable free version on the Mac, as well as I'm sure it's going to be on iPad as well. This could be exciting.
I like your hypothesis on why Apple isn't doing these apps. I have a different hypothesis, which I don't see as competing, because, hey, I'm just making this stuff up.
So am I.
This is why we work so well together. I think this is an intentional artificial limitation that Apple's creating. They want the pro users that are using their pro apps to be buying Macs. And if you give them an opportunity to use these pro level tools on, even if you limit it just to iPad Pro, and limit it just to the latest M series iPad Pros, well, now you have a lot of people potentially that are going to buy an iPad instead of a Mac, and Apple wants those people on a Mac,
especially with Stage Manager and external display support kind of bridging a gap even more. Yeah, I think that's a good theory. Yeah,
for sure. So it's gonna be interesting to see. Well, once it comes out, we'll definitely report on it and try it out and see what it does. And maybe we'll even have Guy Cyril on the show. He's a big DaVinci Resolve user. Hopefully we can get him to try it out and see what he thinks too. So let's go ahead and move on here. Next story. Not that I like talking about Tesla that much, but Apple Music support finally has been added to the Tesla vehicles. Tesla did roll out a holiday software update that introduces support for Apple Music, according to reports on Twitter. Surprise. 2022 4425 update that allows Tesla owners to access their Apple Music accounts directly in their cars. So another way to be able to listen to Apple Music is in your Tesla. Oh boy. What do you think, Jeff?
Good. I mean, okay, for Tesla, this is good because they should be supporting all of the streaming services. And for Apple, it's good because they have clearly, at least to some degree, been following the Netflix model of get what you have every place you can possibly put it. And getting Apple Music in Teslas, great. That's just one more place where you can use that now.
Yeah, excellent. What do you think, Holden?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I'm actually surprised it wasn't there anyway. I feel like once you're adding even Spotify, you'd think, okay, well, let's also add, Apple Music and is there another one? Oh, YouTube Music, Amazon Music. Like, why not just add them all? Like, how hard could it be? I don't think Tesla's making the app. I'm pretty sure Apple's making the app for Tesla, and then Tesla allows it. I'm assuming, at least.
Yeah. And Ben in the chat room on our YouTube channel, on our YouTube live stream at youtube.com/intouchwithios, he says you can now play Tesla on via Apple Music. So yes, that's
hey,
good.
Esley, part of my Tesla.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So let's move on. This was interesting to see here. iOS 16 adoption rate is now at 69%, and then we're 3 months in now. But I think probably thanks to a lot of its new features. And how does that compare to Android? We can just laugh about that. iOS 16 is about 69%. iOS 15 is about at about 25% or so. That's not bad. And 6.27% of the iPhones are still earlier than that, which are probably, of course, ones that can't go any further. So good to see. The Android versus iOS debate is always a debate. But the problem with Android is there's so many different models out there. There's so many different versions out there because carriers don't allow them to upgrade it most of the time, which is like the most ridiculous thing in the world here. What do you think, Holden?
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge that Google's always going to have. There's always going to be the discrepancy. I think in the article they even said like Google's now kind of hiding the number, or they're not being as open about it. And I just think it's because like what can they really do? It's so out of their hands. But even with iOS though on 16 to begin with, I think that's lower than it was for like iOS 15 and iOS 14, which is surprising to me.
Yeah, it seems like
the lock screen seems to be a really popular feature amongst people I know who aren't kind of techies. They seem to like that feature a lot. So I'm surprised it hasn't ushered in a higher level of adoption.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, okay, keep in mind the numbers. These are estimates because they're not coming from Apple.
Yes.
But that said, they're probably reasonable, even if they're not exact. And people gloating over the Apple adoption or iOS adoption, to me, this is going to sound weird. That's not really fair because of exactly what you said about Android. So many Android devices, the owners don't have any control over when they get updates. So if they can't update, then is that a fair comparison for adoption rates?
Right.
It'd be interesting to see that for just the Pixel line, for example, and see what the adoption rate is there.
That would be interesting to see. Yep.
Yeah, no, I agree. So interesting, always interesting to see where that goes here. Next story, Microsoft is their Authenticator app for Apple Watch will be discontinued coming up next month in January 2023. Microsoft revealed that this week. It's used principally for signing into Microsoft accounts with two-step verification enabled. The Authenticator app on iOS was on the Apple Watch since 2018. The Watch app supported personal work and school accounts, let you set up push notification, let you help to bypass picking up their iPhone to complete the authentication process. But Microsoft was starting to see that now with passkeys coming and a lot of other competitors, why do they really need to be on the Apple Watch? So it's my take on this. but I do use Microsoft Authenticator all the time for work because we need it. And a lot of companies use it for that reason because they're in the Microsoft ecosystem. So plenty of other authenticator type apps out there. I know, Jeff, you use
I use
Authy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Every time I see an article about one of the companies saying we're removing support for something with our Authenticator platform, my heart skips a beat.
Yeah.
Because once we commit to one of our Authenticator platforms, I mean, you're like really committed. And it's not like well, okay, I've been using Apple streaming music. I'm going to switch to Spotify streaming music, and you just kind of go, no, this is like worse than an ugly divorce. I know that's not what's happening here, and I would love to know what security features Apple Watch doesn't support, because that's the reasoning for dropping support for this.
Right, that's what I said. Yeah, they don't specify it.
At the same time, come on, I've got an Apple Watch. If you're going to give me the feature, figure out a way to make this work.
Yeah, I use Duo and I use my Apple Watch primarily. So I remote in when I'm working from home. I just get the pop on my watch. It says approve or deny, and I just say approve, and I'm in, and it's so easy. And I wouldn't want to like pull my phone in my pocket just to do that one thing. It's kind of the perfect use case for an Apple Watch. And it's also baffling that Apple wouldn't keep the security standards the same across, iOS and watchOS. So I think that's interesting.
Yeah,
for sure. We'll see. Let's nothing be too exciting about that. Next story: Apple does expand the emergency SOS via satellite to the UK, France, Germany, and Ireland. That happened this week as we record here. They expanded the SOS via satellite and the Find My via satellite functionality to those countries. The iPhone 14 users can now connect with emergency services with the cellular Wi-Fi coverage, which is not available, as we've talked about many times on the show here. It's a great feature, and there's been a lot of examples that it's really come in handy. I think we have a story here in a little bit to actually prove positive that it did work. So good to see that it's expanding beyond the U.S. and Canada. Other countries should be able to take advantages, don't you think, Jeff?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm trying to think of something clever and pithy to say, but I mean, hooray! Expand this out. Give it to everyone, please.
Yeah.
Fewer dead people.
Yeah. Absolutely. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, couldn't say any better. I mean, it's something like I hope no one has to use, but it's certainly nice that people in other countries have it too. I have a 14 Pro. I honestly forgot it was a feature. I totally forgot, which is maybe not a good thing if I needed it.
Well, you can test it. They let you do testing calls. So not to a point where it's an emergency call, but just enough to see that it makes sure it works. Speaking of making sure it works, the story yesterday as we record this, iPhone 14 crash detection and emergency SOS via satellite led rescuers to a car that fell into a remote canyon. 2 people involved in a serious accident occurred, were rescued and located through the new features available on the iPhone 14 models. So emergency SOS came through. It took place in the Angeles Forest Highway in the Angeles National Forest in California, where a vehicle careened over the side of a mountain and fell approximately 300 feet into a remote canyon. Yow! And the iPhone 14 model in the car detected the crash as there was no cellular signal. Information was provided to rescuers via the emergency SOS via satellite, and shows some Twitter feeds of the rescue. And this is pretty cool. And then we're gonna probably hear a lot more of these types of rescues. They even talk about that there was recently a rescue in the remote area of Alaska. The crash detection feature worked successfully. Users have used it several other times. So this is paying off already, it looks like. What don't you think, Jeff?
Yes. This is great for the people that were rescued. It's also the kind of publicity that there's no way Apple or any company could pay for this. There's literally not enough money in existence to pay for this kind of publicity.
Hey, do you want to drive off a cliff for us?
Right.
At $2,000.
and some there will be someone that'll say, sure. My Tesla is ready to drive that route anyhow. So it's just, but no. So this is cool. Side note to this, I've been wondering what happens with SOS after 2 years.
I was just thinking this, yeah.
And my guess is that when we get 2 years into this, Apple is just going to tell us, and it's still a thing, no extra cost, because it's that valuable. The way I could see them having us pay for it is if it becomes part of their overall subscription service. So, you buy the Apple One bundle or something, and you have SOS as part of it. But otherwise, no, I think Apple will ultimately keep this as a thing that we don't pay for because it's just that valuable to them.
I agree, because I can't imagine many people would say, "Oh, in foresight, I could drive off a cliff and fall into a canyon at some point. So let me spend." I think some of these satellite services right now are like $50 to $100 a month, maybe more than that. I don't know the exact price, but it's expensive. It's not cheap. And I feel like the benefit to Apple, even just saying, hey, for free, if there's a crash detection, we will send an emergency SOS. But if you're like in the middle of the woods and you're lost, you have to pay for that. Like maybe they do something like that to make it so they're not spending quite as much to make it free. But I feel like they'd have to do something like that, because to have this for 2 years and be like, okay, but now going forward, if you get into a car accident, too bad. Too bad.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And okay, we don't pay for fall detection. We don't pay for EKG detection. Now, granted, those don't require an additional service, but it's bad optics for Apple to say, okay, all these other health and safety things that you get just because you have an Apple product, great. But this one that could really save your life, that one you're going to have to pay for.
What they could also do too is just say you get it for 2 years on your phone, and then after that it's over. But if you buy a new iPhone, you'll get 2 more years, or it's included with Apple Care or something. There's like Apple Care lost and stolen, Apple Care you are lost or stolen, like a different tier to it.
Yep. I like that. Apple Care you are lost or stolen.
Yeah, you are lost or stolen.
Yeah, engage the Find My Body feature.
Yeah, that's right. Oh my gosh. Last story this week, YouTube's Apple TV app is crashing and causing issues for users. In the latest update, this was this week. The app is crashing, causing some issues for users when they try to exit out of the app. A lot of reports was on Twitter and Reddit. They were reporting that once you exit out of the YouTube app, their Apple TV becomes unresponsive and shows a black screen. Whoops. The issue begins when the user presses the back button on their TV remote, causing the YouTube app to ask to confirm users that you want to wish to exit the app. And it goes black. The user has no choice but to force close the app or disconnect and replug their Apple TV in. So, kind of interesting way to cause a bit of a crash there. I believe this article doesn't say this, but I believe this has been since fixed. But go Google, go YouTube. Make sure you have apps that are working right.
The YouTube app on Apple TV is also just not the greatest way to interact with YouTube to begin with. Unfortunately, I would love to watch YouTube on the TV, but it's just not a great experience.
Maybe someday YouTube will have enough followers or users that they're bringing in enough revenue so that they can afford to have software testers before they release updates and new products.
They need competition. Yeah. We talk about tech monopolies, but YouTube is obviously a monopoly. There is nothing like YouTube at that scale, not even close. I guess that's true of Google as a whole, though.
Yeah. So I guess they need to be a bigger monopoly so they can afford to do that QA work.
Yeah. Google just needs more money. They just don't have enough. I weep thinking about Sundar Pichai. Poor man.
I know. Yeah, I'm with you.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's some of the news stories we found this week. Let's get some of the topics. Apple is still supporting the older OSs. It's interesting to see. Before we dive into the beta and 16.2, I want to touch upon on this a little bit. It's very different from the past. On the Mac side of things, they haven't left Monterey or Big Sur for that matter, and they still haven't left behind iPad OS 15 or iOS 15 back just yet. Our friend Andrew Orr wrote this article in Apple Insider. Wanted to just touch upon this a little bit. So they did release iOS 15.7.2 and iPad OS 15.7.2, and then new updates to Monterey and to Big Sur on the Mac side of things. So it's interesting to see that they're keeping these updates and they're keeping things secure, because all the OSs have security issues that have to be patched and covered and all this stuff. And there are some iPhones out there and iPads for that matter that can't go past 15. So this is a good thing. I've known in the past Apple's kind of abandoned it pretty quickly shortly after. I think we start seeing the trend a little more in iOS 14. That they were starting to throw out some updates, but they still, even with iOS 12. I mean, some of the really old devices, once in a while, when they see a really nasty bug, they are releasing updates still, because people are still using those devices. What do you guys think? I think this is good, and I definitely say for those of you who are running these OSs, go out and update them right away. Some pretty serious vulnerabilities.
Yeah, these types of updates for older OS versions, I'm not surprised, because Apple is making a very clear statement about how serious they are about security on their devices. So no new features, but when they have security issues, and especially like serious security issues, rolling out these updates for older OS versions, that just helps solidify in the public's mind that yes, Apple is serious about protecting our security.
Absolutely.
I totally agree. It's also example too of how Apple, I think, really genuinely cares about their devices having longevity, more so now than I think ever. But they've been doing this kind of doing the best to get your iPhone to last as long as possible for a while. Maybe this is a hot take, but even including the slowing down of iPhones from that controversy from a few years ago. They care.
Yeah, they do care. So go out, for those of you who are still running the older devices, go out, get your updates done. Those of you who aren't ready to update to 16, what are you waiting for? It's good now. Update. But if you insist, keep using 15.7. 15.7.2 is the most current version. So let's go in, jump a little bit into beta before we go into the iOS 16.2 release for this week. So iOS 16.2 came out, and then shortly thereafter, the next day, Apple released the first seeds of beta 1 of 16.3 for both iOS and for iPad OS. Still relatively new, and then really haven't reported much yet as far as a lot of the things that have been added just yet. Did you install it on your iPad, Jeff, to try it out yet?
Here's the thing that I'm seeing that's really interesting, and it may have hit with the last 16.2 dev beta before the rollout. I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. My 10-inch iPad Pro is charging through USB hub now, where previously I had to put it into a higher power charger to get it to charge. And that's really surprising to me. So it's coinciding with software updates. So I haven't changed the hub. There's no more power coming out of that USB port, but now it's charging. So that's actually kind of cool. I mean, it doesn't charge fast, but it's how it used to be where you'd get a slow charge while the screen was off. And as soon as you turn on the screen, then it says not charging.
Mm-hmm.
You still have the lightning bolt
that
now,
drives me crazy,
even with the screen on.
Hopefully it's not a bug. It's just actually it's not charging. Yeah.
Right.
That'd be devastating.
Well, I mean, this is an iPad that desperately needs a new battery, but Apple's like, no. your battery sucks right now, but it doesn't suck enough that will replace it. So I have to keep it plugged in all the time just to use it. And previously I'd use it for like an hour, and then I'd have to go and plug it in on the high power charger, and then bring it back, use it some more, go plug it. Stupid. Now I can just leave it plugged in here at my desk and use it.
Yeah, that's much better.
Yep, absolutely. So once that was released the next day, actually today as we record this, it was announced that the public betas are now out. So you crazy kids out there who want to live on the edge and be in a public beta, don't have a developer account, you can install your first beta today as we record here. And so they did find a few things that there's that's going on with 16.3, but very minor in state. But the biggest thing that's standing out is the software does include the support for physical security keys for additional and an added layer of protection of your Apple ID. What this does, it's a physical FIDO certified security key that can be used in lieu of a device authentication when signing into an Apple ID on iCloud on a new device. It also includes a more streamlined process for transferring a song from a HomePod to a HomePod from an iPhone and vice versa. Apple providing some additional details on this works, but nothing really has been as of yet. I know that's always a pain point for you, Jeff, with these HomePod issues that you've always had, and still, I'm sure 16.2 continues on the tradition of pain points with the HomePod.
I can say with full confidence that Apple is very consistent with the quality of the HomePod software. Yeah.
Consistency is good.
Yeah. At least I know what to expect. Yeah. So I have a thing about these security keys for Apple ID.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Apple, do you really expect those of us that are still stuck after decades of having to have multiple Apple IDs because they can't figure this out? You expect me to have a key ring full of keys so that I can log into my different accounts? Oh, and then don't forget the ones that are old enough that you can't even do the new two-step authentication. You have to do the old style. Apple, fix this. And then I'll get excited about the keys.
I think the greatest day ever would be if Apple announced merging Apple IDs. That would be the greatest thing ever.
God. I wish.
It would be wonderful. And then I'd be able to go from 4 accounts. Seriously, I could go to one account and I would be cool with that.
I can understand the whole not merging paid content, but if you have, because for me, I have all my iTunes paid content, one Apple ID, iCloud, other Apple ID. That shouldn't be hard. That shouldn't be hard. Just move the iCloud stuff over.
No, it shouldn't be.
But I don't want to do that manually myself. Apple's engineers need to work on it.
Yeah. Fix it, Apple.
Come on, Apple. Let's fix it. WatchOS 9.3 is out as well. Again, WatchOS, there generally isn't much in the way of any dramatic changes that they're showing yet. Nothing report.
It has the same feature set as the AirTag firmware.
Yeah. But at least you can actually update the watch, whereas the AirTag, it just updates when it feels like it. So, and then of course, tvOS comes out with their version, and again, that's even worse. Nothing usually to report. Although 16.2, we did have some subtle changes that we could at least talk about. Yeah, check that out for beta. But like I said, iOS and iPadOS 16.2 was released to the public this week. I wanted to kind of talk about some of the features and our thoughts of what really stands out. Jeff and I did get to test during beta process Freeform, which fun. I think is so cool. It was a lot of fun, and it works. And it works on the Mac and on 13.1 Ventura. as well as it does work on the iPad as well, and the iPhone for that matter. The Freeform app did install on the iPhone. Not sure how as good of a user friendly that is with the smaller screen, but it's good to see that that they were able to do that. So it was a very flexible canvas. You can add files. We played around with, put some images, stickies. I think it's really a cool thing that they've really added for that. So, and then Apple Music Sing was kind of a cool thing that they've added. That's got an enhancement. I believe it's iPhone on iPhone 11 and higher on the iPhone, and it is limited on the iPad. I believe it only works with the newer models on external displays, but I haven't tried it. Really haven't had time to play with it much yet. I don't know if any of you guys have, but it does look cool. I saw one of the videos that Apple put together. I think someone actually did a little bit of a demo, and they're singing. You can bring the vocals down and actually hear yourself sing and be like a karaoke.
I wouldn't want to hear that. For me, no, I don't know about you guys. I don't sing well.
Oh, I bet you're amazing.
No.
No, I haven't played with this yet because
me either.
I don't have an Apple TV that's new enough.
On the Apple TV, but you still could do it on the iPhone. That's why I was wondering if you can AirPlay it.
Yeah, that's true. I was just thinking, I'm going to hold my iPhone in front of me and sing to my cat, and no, I don't think I am.
Yeah.
But it's still a cool thing.
It's going to be interesting to see where that goes because a lot of people are going to have fun with that. Of course, they did add the advanced data protection for iCloud, which now expands the total number of iCloud data categories for protecting you and end-to-end encryption. We talked about that last week. That was a huge announcement from Apple, of course, including iCloud backup and notes and photos, protecting your information in case there's a data breach. And no, Apple doesn't have the key, so you're safe. The lock screen added some new settings that allows you to hide wallpaper or notifications when always on is enabled on the iPhone 14 Pro or 14 Pro Max. Sleep widget will let you view your most recent sleep data, and medications widget now you can view your reminders, which is kind of cool. I do. I don't know if you guys use it, but I do use the medicine reminders. I really like them.
Mm-hmm.
They're really pushing me to making sure, did you take your medicine today?
Yep. I am horrible taking my meds. So that's very, very handy. Yeah. Also, I have I do a lot of focus modes based on like time of the day and what I'm doing. So I have a morning one, and it's actually really nice to have my morning lock screen be how much I slept and take your meds right there. That is nice.
That is nice.
Yeah, absolutely. The Game Center, if you're a gamer, they did add share play support in Game Center for multiplayer games, so you can play. You could play with the people you are in a FaceTime call, and then it's got an activity widget, what your games are playing. I really kind of just turn off Game Center. I really don't use it. I don't know about you guys.
I'm a gamer. I don't use it. That says a lot, I think.
Yeah. I set up Game Center.
Yeah, that's right. You were
when it first came out. When we had the green felt background, and so it's still on. But it's crazy because each of my devices at some point has decided to invent its own name or account or something. So there's like no unification between any of my Game Center stuff. And it's just like letter number combinations that Apple assigned for the names, and those change sometimes. And so I have no idea what's going on with Game Center, but I guess it doesn't matter because
it's been kind of
I don't know anyone that's actually using it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, it's just kind of worthless now.
It's that pretty much is. So, what was the other thing they did was with Apple TV, the Apple TV app. They added live. They have now live the live feeds that are now as part of the as part of sports events and all those other types of live feeds that are beyond on there. I think Uber Eats is going to have their live feed telling you when your food's coming, and it's definitely going to be something that people are going to utilize. Of course, this is only on the iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max that allows that in the dynamic island. So the Home app itself improves some reliability and efficiency of communication between your smart home accessories and Apple devices. So that's interesting. I don't know if you've seen any of that improvement just yet.
And I also just got the Nano Leaf bulbs that have the threading. So it's with the combination of 16.2 and the threading with these bulbs, it is instantaneous. I never used my Apple Watch for home because it was too slow. And I never just with my wrist held up for way too long, waiting for things to connect. Now I open it, it's ready. I tap, it's done. I will only now use the Home app on my watch and not my phone, I think, because it is a significant improvement.
I'm going to complain.
Anything you've noticed, Jeff, with the Home app? I know you've always have challenges with that sometimes.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I'm always trying to find ways to push and break the whole thing. And it turns out I'm really good at breaking it. Now, here's my complaint. You get the latest OS updates on your Mac, your iPhone, your iPad, your Apple Watch, and then in Home, if you think to go and look, then you see the thing that says, hey, there's the Home upgrade available, and it's going to make things better. But it doesn't tell you anything about what it's making better. And so you tap the thing that says learn more because, hey, yeah, I want to learn what it's doing to make my home even better and more efficient. And learn more is telling you, hey, it's going to make it better and more efficient. So go ahead and just tap the button that says upgrade. And then it was like, oh, wait. Your HomePods aren't updated, but they are. So I'm not going to do it yet. And then you try again later and it was like, okay, everything's no, wait, we changed our mind. Your Apple Watch this time isn't up to date, even though it is. And then finally it works and it says everything's up to date. And you still have no information from Apple what it is that's been updated and why it's better. And then it also leaves you wondering, well, if I just did all of these iOS, iPadOS, macOS, HomePodOS updates, why wasn't it just part of that? So anyhow, if it was other companies, I'd probably let it slide. But this is Apple. And there shouldn't be this opaque thing that you stumble across and you don't know what it's really doing. But when it's done, it just says, yay, it's done. And you have no idea what it is that's going to be better, or if you need to do anything different now that you've done this mystery update.
That makes me wonder if my faster speeds for home devices is just because of the threading and not because of 16.2.
It's the threading stuff's amazing. Like the devices that I've been using with thread. I'll just tell my Apple Watch, do the thing, and it's done.
Yeah.
And so that was before 16.2.
I just got those lights this week. So there was and I was already on the 16.2 beta. And the Hue lights are the slowest things ever. So I don't have those anymore.
Oh, but that's going to change. But it's going to suck because.
Well, why is it going to suck?
It's going to suck because the first part is, hey, install the software update on your Hue Bridge. And that's the easy part. Then it's every single device that goes through your Hue Bridge has to be removed from your setup.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my
so
God.
It can be updated and then added back in.
Okay, so I wouldn't have been able to do that because the issue I ran into with my Hue lights is I changed my Wi-Fi network. I got an Arrow mesh network, and then just the Hue Bridge stopped working.
Wow.
And I had to repair it, but it didn't have the HomeKit code on the device, and I was so dumb and didn't keep the HomeKit code. And the bridge needed it, all of the lights needed it, and I'm like, I have to buy all new stuff now. So I would have ran into that anyway, even if I didn't get the Wi-Fi. If I had to unpair and repair everything, That's awful. That's really terrible.
It's absolutely awful. And
Yeah.
while I would love to have all of my Hue lights super fast, the amount of work that will go into making that possible. No, it's like there's Hue bulbs everywhere in here, and they're part of all these different scenes. And I have no interest in having to recreate all of that.
Yeah, that's a lot of work. A lot of work. But a couple of little things real quick on the updates. They improved search in messages, so it allows you to find photos based on their content, like a dog, a car, person, or text. Turning off the hide IP address setting enables iCloud Private Relay users to temporarily disable the service for a specific site in Safari if you need it. News articles in the weather display information relevant to the weather in that location. Participant curses and notes will let you see live indicators as others make updates in a shared note. The airdrop, which we had extensive discussion about, is now set to when it reverts to contacts only. And after 10 minutes, it prevents unwanted requests to receive content, as well as you can only have for 10 minutes on for everyone, which is fine because I think a lot of people were, as we talked about previous, had that turned on all the time.
Yeah, me. You're talking about me.
Yeah, like a lot of us. Yeah, no, I knew others. I mean, some people forget. I probably forgot to turn it off. And some other features that they've added, AirDrop. That's what AirDrop does. And some of the iPad specific features, you now have external display support for Stage Manager, up to resolutions for 6K. It's got to be the 5th generation later, 12.9 inch iPad Pro, as well as the 11 inch 3rd gen later, and the iPad Air 5th gen. So it works with that too. Drag and drop files and windows from your compatible devices to your connected display and vice versa, and it supports up to 4 apps on the iPad display. That's good. So they've done some good updates this time around, and we'll start playing with them some more and report back if we see anything else that stands out for us. So that's 16.2. Again. Check it out. Go ahead and download it. It does have over 30 security vulnerabilities as well. So even if you're not excited about installing it right away, it probably would be not a good idea to do it anyway because of all those vulnerabilities that are included in 16.2. So definitely would highly suggest and recommend that you get that up to date pretty quickly. Next topic here, I wanted to talk a little bit about, there's been some more discussion here this week about side-loading apps, and will it really happen? Reportedly, Apple is working on adding support for side-loading and alternate app stores in Europe. So will that expand beyond that audience? Because European legislation says that it will require the company to support side-loading. That's what was reported by Bloomberg. Change would allow customers to download apps without the need of the App Store, which would mean developers would not need to pay Apple's tax, as someone calls the 15 to 30% fees. But Apple's only planning to implement this side loading in Europe. So this is definitely going to be interesting to see where this goes. We've talked about this before with side loading and its pros, its cons. Can it be risky? Jeff, what has been your thoughts on side loading when we talked about it before? I mean, it's something that kind of scares me a little bit. It opens up our ecosystem here with Apple versus what Android does, where it's a free for all.
I think side loading, when Apple does implement it, because it's not like we can debate will they or won't they. I mean, EU regulation is going to require this, so it's going to happen, even if it is just for the EU. It doesn't say Apple has to implement it in a way that creates a free for all. Apple can create like a sandbox space for third-party app stores, and then they go in there and they don't get to interact with anything else. And
interesting.
And this is just stuff I've been thinking about, and thinking that this will allow third-party developers to sidestep Apple's cut on in-app payments. Wrong. Apple will definitely make sure that there's something in place so that these third party app stores are still giving Apple their cut in some form. And so that's not going to go away. And then thinking that this turns into a free for all in the sense that companies like Facebook, and I'd say Twitter, but who knows if they'll even be around or what they'll be doing. But, will companies decide to pull their app from Apple's App Store and make you go to these other app stores instead? No. Look at the way the Google Play Store works. All the stuff that everyone wants is in the main store, and then there's all these third-party stores that are out there, but most people go through the main one, and that will still be the case. Doesn't matter if it's US or EU, everyone will primarily use Apple's own app store. That'll be the end of it.
I 1,000% agree. I won't go to the whole USB-C thing, but I think so many of the EU regulations are ridiculous. And I think this is one of them where it's like, I buy an iPhone for many reasons, but security being one of them. And the security comes from App Store and like the lack of easy side loading like you have on Android. And if you look at Android, like kind of what Jeff was talking about, they have Amazon Play, they have Samsung Galaxy Store. There are other third-party ones too. No one uses them because no one wants to. People just use the built-in store that's there. Epic Games, who makes Fortnite, they tried to release Fortnite outside of the Google Play Store, and you had to go to like their special site to download it to your phone. And they ended up going to Google Play shortly afterwards because no one wanted to download Fortnite not in the Play Store. And if Fortnite can't get the traction to get people to leave Play Store, who will? So I just don't see the point of this. So much of the EU stuff just feels like they want to look tough, and they made the big companies change. Like, I don't know how else to see it because so much of the stuff seems kind of foolish to me.
I think a lot of it is myopically good intended actions.
Yeah.
A couple comments from Ben in the chat here. He's saying that it will be the same reason the cookie notifications went worldwide. Everyone will copy and paste the EU law. He says Apple, we can use Gatekeeper to maybe protect from the App Store, these third-party app stores. He seems to think that they'll raise dev fees. I don't know about that. Maybe they will. Hard to say. They haven't done that in a long time. And he also says it's going to be a professional and gaming markets mainly. So
I can see gaming markets
do
that, yeah. But the whole 30% cut thing too is a big part of this because was it you, Jeff, who mentioned that? Right. That like they're not going to not offer 30% cut still. The conflation of like saying 30% cuts a payment processing fee is absurd. Like, it's not a payment processing fee. It's just, that's not what it is. It's the tools to support the iOS development and everything. I mean, it's a whole bunch of things. The human review process, all that. They can't get rid of that.
Right. And look at the payment on the Android side. It's 30% everywhere.
Yeah. That's why I hate the Apple tax thing. It's like, okay, where's the Sony tax, the Nintendo tax, the Microsoft tax, the Google tax? All these companies do it. But Apple's uniquely a monopoly for doing an industry standard.
Well, that insidious Apple.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. There was another article I linked in here as well. The Alt Store creator, who's a third-party app store, is saying that it probably could disrupt your user experience. I don't know if I agree with that or not. There is reports that Apple is working on a deep change to how iOS and the App Store work. That was according to Bloomberg. So I'd be interesting to see where this goes. I've kind of looked through some of this information from this third-party app store. It's definitely speculative. I just don't see right now. This is, like we said, it's just European Union right now. The U.S. is one of the bigger markets that if this were happening, we might be hearing more about this.
Yeah, well, keep in mind that generally speaking, people in the United States forget that there's a world outside the United States. So some
That's
things
true.
that should be discussed a lot more inside the United States aren't, because they're not things that are happening inside the country.
Yeah, true.
What's the EU? What are we
So,
talking about?
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good conversation. Yeah, this was definitely going to be interesting to see where it goes. I want to talk a little more about Continuity Camera. It's been out for a short time now, and wondered if you guys have really done much use with it. Of course, if anybody doesn't know, the Continuity Camera is built in for app Mac OS Ventura, so you actually can use your iPhone directly without having any third-party app to be able to use your iPhone as a camera. Belkin at first released their first mount, which I did purchase, was wasn't a bad mount, but it kind of flimsy. It was the magnetic a MagSafe mount that clips onto your Mac notebook. Well, they've now come out with a version that can now clip to your monitor. So there's a new version of that isn't out. It's still on not in the store just yet, but another $30 you could purchase this and actually clip it to a monitor, which is great. So another potential possibility of using your iPhone with MagSafe and continuity camera. Have you tried this at all, Holden? With the
I'm using it right now
at all?
with the Belkin stand,
okay.
actually too. It works
okay,
great.
Cool. So and yeah, you look good. You look really good. So it's really working well. And I think this was smart that Belkin jumped right on it and getting the one for a monitor too, because most of us are. You're obviously using it on your Mac's laptop lid. So I think it's going to be smart to see. I'm using a Plexicam mount here with an iPhone XR, and I'm also using Camo Studio, and it seems to work pretty well too. So the Camo Studio has a little more flexibility, as we've talked about, but continuity cameras for someone, you want something simple, you just connect it as long as it's connected to your iCloud account, and boom, you have a camera.
It's so easy. I mean, you literally just start a FaceTime call or even a Zoom call like this, and it just works. Literally, not a catchphrase. Like it just works.
Yeah. Jeff, have you tried using it much at all?
Yes, and I like it. I'm not using it right now, and the reason being is because I've got my Logitech C920 on my Plexicam mount, and so I've got so much set up that involves just what I already have, that using a continuity camera becomes the thing that I do when I'm thinking, oh, I could do this. And yeah, the Belkin mounts are nice. I built one out of Lego, and it works.
That's right. I know you've shown us a few times.
Yeah, it was like 5 minutes of my life, and after building it, I was thinking, why would I spend money on anything that anyone else is making when I've got this and it works perfectly? And now I have basically two camera mounts, one for the C920 and then another one for the iPhone, so I can do whatever.
Yeah. So definitely something to check out if it's something that interests you, using your, a lot of times you get into a pinch, you don't have a webcam, or, sometimes you don't want to use your built-in webcam, although the built-in ones for the new MacBook Pros and the MacBook Air, for that matter, are very good quality now, much better than they had been in the past. But the iPhone's definitely going to give you a lot better quality. As the cameras on those are going to be much better. So definitely something to check out here. So a couple more things I want to hit on here. This was kind of a did you know? I didn't even know this. That did you know the newer iPhones can actually measure someone's height instantly? I had no idea you could do this. So iPhone 12 Pro and Pro Max, or 13 and the 14 Pro models, it does feature a LiDAR scanner next to the rear camera that it can be used to measure a person's height instantly using the Measure app. So the way to measure it, you actually go through, simply open up the app and point your iPhone at the person you want to measure, make sure it's they're all visible in the screen from head to toe, and boom, it actually gives you their height right at the top of their head down to their toes. So yeah, the Measure app. I didn't even.
When did the LiDAR sensor come to iPhone? Is it iPhone 12 or 11? 12?
12, yeah. The article here says, there's a link in the show notes here from Mac Rumors here. There's the 12 Pro and Pro Max, 13 Pro and Pro Max.
So there's a good amount of iPhones that have that. Is that Pro? It's Pro only though, right?
Yeah. Okay. Pro only, because those were the ones that had the LiDAR scanner, right? Yeah.
Presumably iPad should be able to do this too. The Pro models, because they have LiDAR built in as well.
Yeah, but I don't know, because I don't know if it has the Measure app. Does it?
I don't think it has the Measure app. What'll come first, Measure or Calculator?
Yeah.
Calculator. Yeah, iPad hasn't had a calculator. That's always a sore point. Everybody wants a calculator on the iPad. It's still only third party. Other thing I want to mention real quick is Apple has teased some of the shows that are coming out next year in 2023 for the Apple TV Plus. Can't wait for Ted Lasso season 3 to finally come out. Masters of the Air is going to be another show that they have on here. They have an actual trailer that they released that shows some of the shows that are going to be released here. Selena Gomez has a show that she's coming out with. Spirited was a fun
that was a fun movie
show. Yeah, I gotta watch it still. I haven't. That was with Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell, right? So yeah,
and
so
Octavia
I think
Spencer.
Apple TV just continues. Octavia Spencer, that's right. Sharper, which is starring Julianne Moore, and Shrinking have announced their release dates the end of January and February in 2023. So a lot more stuff and more new content, a lot of cool stuff. And then there's also there's a sci-fi series called Wool, which is Billy Crudup's comedy Hello Tomorrow, and a Ridley Scott directed feature Napoleon, among others. So kind of cool to see Billy Crudup going out of the morning show and jumping into another show here. So yeah, so it's kind of fun to see where things are going here. So lastly, I wanted to touch upon this. I mean, we talked about this on Mac Voices, but I still can't resist not talking about it here. Only a quarter of U.S. iPhones were sold through Apple. The Verge did this article, and we really had a fun time ripping on this because, of course, this is from a third-party report. These are not as Jeff and I always stress. This is not official information from Apple. So it's interesting to see that they say that the way to buy an iPhone is through your carrier. I mean, you see about 67% of the sales they're saying here that go through the carrier, and maybe only a quarter of that are through Apple. I always have a good experience buying it through Apple because I'm in the trade-in program every year, and I just buy it online. Usually, I haven't gone to the store as of late, but we knew over the years we always loved waiting in line and the excitement of getting the new iPhone every year. And then Holden, of course, as a former Apple employee, you experienced a few of those events in the past. So
absolutely.
I'd like to know what your take is on that, since you've experienced it with working with the store, and how. Do you think this is a kind of a legit thing they're talking about, saying that it's? I still think the Apple Store experience is so much better.
Yeah, it's definitely better. And this wasn't true when I was there, I don't think. But, you can get a lot of those carrier deals now through Apple's website, through Apple.
Exactly.
So why wouldn't you do that still? Because so last year I bought a 13 Pro through Verizon because the trade deal was ridiculous. This year, I ended up giving my phone to my aunt to get a 14 Pro this year. And I got it through Apple, and way better process. Getting through Verizon, I was confused as to when I would even get it. Wasn't certain. Yeah. And with the iPhone, it's like I ordered it, I had a range, and it arrived within the range or before. Usually, Apple's pretty good about that. It's easier. You can set up in advance to pay for it if you're doing a pre-order. It's just so much better. And then also, if you go to the stores, you can talk to someone who knows about all the carrier deals and has them all laid out on their device. It's just so much better. But the reason I don't necessarily question this is because I don't know how many people know about that. That's not something that Apple usually advertises. It's like either you know or you don't know. So I don't know.
Well, us techies, we know about it because we know Apple, and I said that Apple has full access to any of the carrier deals that they offer. I just go to the carrier. Hey, okay, this is what T-Mobile's offering. This is what Verizon's offering.
Yeah.
This is what AT&T's offering, and they have access to it too. I find the experience definitely much better with the Apple Store, only because you go to these carrier stores, and a lot of times, some of these carrier stores they're not company stores. They're third party operators of some of these carriers. They just pay a license to be able to be a third party company, and I try to avoid those stores.
They don't know anything,
like the plague.
You don't know anything.
Yeah,
because they don't know a thing, and they want and they're so customer service is just abysmal. So I mean, at least I know like my T-Mobile, my carrier. I know that if I have to go into a store, it's I have a good experience because they're pretty decent for the most part. Other than that, they're hard. They get super busy, more so than what Apple does. Apple's very good at keeping customers flowing through the store and getting you help pretty quickly. But of course, Jeff, you're using MVNO, Mint Mobile, and now it sounds like you've said you've had a good experience with that. So you don't. I mean, and Mint Mobile does sell iPhones, so you could, if you wanted to, purchase an iPhone through them as well.
I could, which I didn't realize when I signed up, but it wouldn't have made any difference. No,
of course.
I already had my phone, and I like to buy my phone unlocked, so I just have it. And so I end up buying from Apple, and typically I just order online for pickup in the store. And like the last time, it was when I bought my iPhone 12 Pro, it was placed the order, got in my car, drove over to the store, and picked it up, 10 minutes away.
Mm-hmm. Another aspect of this too, it just dawned on me too. How many Apple stores there are in an area versus how many Best Buys, Verizon stores?
Well, that's a thing.
That as well.
Apple stores are definitely a minority compared to all of the other venues where you can get an iPhone.
Right.
And I think people would want to go to
in
a
more
store
rural areas,
to buy,
because
they want to transfer their contacts. They want to do things that they want to, have their handheld through. I don't mean that in a derogatory sense. I mean that in a very, very fair sense.
Yeah. Well,
the carriers, they don't want to help you much when it comes to that.
But for a lot of people, they're concerned, what happens when I go to activate the new phone? If something goes wrong, they want to do it right in the store so that if something goes wrong, they have the store people right there to presumably help them.
Yeah.
That is going to get so much easier, though. I had the joy of setting up eSIM on my 13 Pro before I got my 14 Pro, and it just transfers.
The eSIM thing is great.
That's what happened when I went.
Yeah.
eSIM's awesome. Yeah, it was a great experience going from my 13 to the 14.
Yeah, I went from physical AT&T SIM to a Mint eSIM, and during the transition, while I'm waiting for everything to fully activate, I had this window of time where I had AT&T and Mint both fully functional on my phone. I was waiting for AT&T to cut out and stop. And it was so simple. It was just done. And then after that, it was like, well, I guess at some point I'll have to take the case off and pull the AT&T SIM out of the car, or out of the phone. But whatever. Yeah, so easy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know. The Verge, I think, was looking for some attention this past week with this article. So,
they do that sometimes.
They tend to do that sometimes. But I think this was a good conversation because I think we've all been in full agreement that that the best experience is the Apple Store. But yeah, there are a lot of people that are listening that don't have an Apple Store readily close by where they live. It could be an hour plus away. Well, I don't think I would want to drive an hour plus just to go to an Apple Store.
If you don't,
luckily I have stores within 30.
That was after we might. Who knows? Knowing us,
it's a field. It might be a field trip. Yeah, it's a field trip.
The not us people. They don't want to drive.
We're
not geeky people like us.
We are
one's normal.
We're not normal. We're not normal. So this was great. There were a lot of great conversation. Thanks you guys for being here for this week, and I think this will give us a point here to wrap up for this week. That's a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, which is feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Twitter @intouchwithios. support the show by buying me a coffee at intouchwithios.com/coffee. We would really appreciate it. You also can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/intouchwithios. We have 2 tiers available to support the show. We would really appreciate it. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe so you're notified when we are live streaming on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/intouchwithios. Thanks to Ben and a lot of the others that came in the chat this week and giving us some interaction in the show here. So you also can go there and watch and listen to past shows. Visit In Touch with iOS magazine on Flipboard, where many of the topics we discuss are flipped into that magazine. The link is in our show notes. You can subscribe to the show in your favorite podcatcher, including Pocket Cast, Overcast, Apple Podcasts, Mimir, and many others. But better yet, just go to our website at intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways to listen to us are there. I am Dave Ginsburg. You can find me on Twitter at DaveG65, and you also can find me on Mastodon at mastodon.cloud at DaveG65. And Holden DePardo, thank you so much. It's always a great time to have you on the show. You're always a great guest. We appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having me.
Where can people find you?
I'm at Holden DePardo on Twitter right now. I hardly post, but maybe that'll be changing soon. More to come.
All right. Good. Well, maybe we can get you on the Mastodon, too.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I actually haven't even
Check
seen
it
it
out.
yet, so I have no idea how it is.
Yeah.
It'll be better
Yeah.
once
Well,
the really good third-party apps for it come out.
Yeah, that's what we're waiting for. And Jeff Gammon, as always, always a pleasure to have you here and being part of the show. Where can people find you?
Well, it's always great to get to be here, and I do appreciate that you keep letting me come back. So thank you for that. Let's see, where can you find me? Twitter, Instagram, Mastodon.social. Basically any of the socials that you can think of. I'm probably Jay Gamut on those. And then shows. Tuesdays, Mac Voices Live. Thursdays on the Big Show, and then here with you on In Touch with iOS. And then Fridays on the Mac Show. And then also on the Context Machine, because Brandon Chaffin and I apparently can't get enough of each other, so we decided we had to podcast together again.
You guys always have a blast listening to that show. So
okay. I'm making an editorial comment about the Context Machine right now on Elon Musk. Brian is wrong. I am right.
We'll leave it at that, right? Well, thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show. A couple program notes. Next 2 weeks, we got our Christmas show coming up. We got just before Christmas, so we'll have a show next week, and we'll also have one after Christmas on New Year's, probably do a year in review. And then we got CES coming up first week of January, so we'll take a week off because I am going to be visiting Las Vegas and checking out CES for the first time in 3 years. So it's going to be exciting, and to see all of our friends, our podcast friends as well. So. But until then, we will be back next week, and we really appreciate you listening, and we'll talk again soon.